before this project launched, my idea was that because we had an issue both focusing on data and well-being and technology, how can we make one of them easier? So my idea was that instead of creating devices that collected data, there could be problem with technology understanding and using, but also just physical devices. Do you have microbit and the sensors needed for collecting that data? We would use the school GPT to simulate data. Instead of saying, this is what happened, you can set up a data spreadsheet, or you can say, I would like to investigate activities in the break and how fun and engaging they are on a scale from 1 to 10. Set it up in a spreadsheet, 10 activities for the break, and then how much they move, how many can attend, how big the chances for them getting into fights, stuff like that, and then just make it simulate the data. And then the fun thing could be that take this data and go out and test it, like ask the questions in the real world and see if you can adjust the simulated data to real data. Data is a hard subject to understand. It's difficult for pupils to come up with data spreadsheets. So getting this simulated beforehand, you can easily see how it works, and then instead of creating it yourself, you can modify something else. So we are back to this use, modify, create model. I made this specifically one with great break activities, and then different columns of like how many can attend and so on. In the 6th grade, they were told to figure out some stuff you can measure in the classroom, which could affect the well-being in class. And they used makey-makeys to like put on votes, like in the 3rd grade and 5th grade. And they also did like with motion sensors, how often, if you put a motion sensor on each chair, how often do you want people like raise themselves and get like physical movement during a day? And then see if there is any similarity to how often you stand up and how often, and the well-being. Is there any? That was one of the cases that the pupils did, like physical movement and well-being. Could they find any similarity? There were also someone who uses the microphone to measure like noise and see, could we find any similarities to noise and well-being? They planned on after each activity or each class, they needed to have like again an evaluation of how good that class went, and then like over a span of days, collecting all this data, could we see any similarity? Maybe they collect German and math. And then they try to find any similarities. Why is one better than the other? But they try to do that without having any assumptions. So of course, some would assume that it would be better for more pupils that they were quiet in class. But maybe that isn't true. So they need to figure that out first. And maybe some pupils like noisy classes more than because they're bored, and the other ones, I don't know. But that was the idea, if they can find any similarities. And of course, there's more factors that only noise or movement that plays into this. But by focusing on these tiny data, it was just like, could we find anything that could be helpful? And could we then have agency to act afterwards? Like, okay, let's try something else. Let's agree with our teacher that we need to stand up every 10 minutes or something like that. Like, can we, by argument from our data, make real world change